Productive Pastor 46, staying productive while traveling. What's going on, friends? Welcome back, Productive Pastor Chad Brooks here. Episode 46, staying productive while traveling, because I've got some crazy stuff going on this week. I'm sure you live in this world too, so we're going to talk about some strategies we can employ when we have those weeks that are semi-wash. As you know, we're gone for a couple of days and in the office for a couple of days. Those can be productivity killers, and we're going to talk about how to make the most of that. Before we jump into it, just want to put one thing in front of you, and that's the Becoming Productive course. That is the course version of Season 1 of the podcast. And it is all about developing your own personal approach to productivity. It's $50. So there's a link in the show notes, revchadbrooks.com/PPP/046. But if you are wanting to get serious on your productivity journey, if you want to take it a step further than, just listening to the podcast, hanging out at Productive Pastor Community on Facebook, those sorts of things, it's a fantastic way. It's 11 modules. There's companion. There's videos for every module. There's tons of worksheets. There's written work. It is a crazy value for $50. So if you've not picked up Becoming Productive yet, and you really want to get a handle on things, that's the biggest recommendation that I can make to you. So go over, cruise over the show notes, grab that link, get the course, jump in on that, and just learn what it's like to get your own personal approach unique to you, because you created it, but with some of the foundations that I've discovered and I've learned from other people for over the last 10 years while stewarding this community called Productive Pastor. So that's it with that conversation. Let's get into the content today about being productive while traveling. So here's the situation, and I think that you might have found yourself in one of these in ministry before. I have to travel for work this week, and I'm only in the office Monday and Tuesday. Then I'm gone Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I fly into a different location Friday. I've got something on Saturday to do, and then I come in hot Saturday evening and then get up Sunday morning and go and hit and do church like every single week. Now, this might come because of a retreat you're doing. It might be a mini vacation you're taking. It could be an emergency or just traveling for stuff, like I'm traveling for ministry right now for work. But it's weird. Those weeks are difficult. They're a struggle for me, because there's that temptation of, okay, I'm only in the office for a couple of days. That changes what you can get done, especially for me or people who kind of follow the Productive Pastor model, if we can even say that, of looking at weeks and the focuses and doing time block planning and declaring days for certain types of tasks, that sort of stuff. There's a temptation to squeeze a week's worth of work into 2 days, and that will be exhausting. You actually probably won't get that much accomplished, and it will leave you winded for whatever you're going to have to take care of what you're traveling or what's taking away a couple of days out of your week. And so what I want to talk about today is this, that those couple of days, that whole week, it doesn't have to be a wash, but there does need to be a bit of a reorientation. And this is how I'm doing it this week. This is what I've learned, 10 years, 13 years of doing this, of being in full-time ministry, out of seminary, appointed as a United Methodist elder. And there's a little interesting United Methodist part of this is, I swear we travel and are out of pocket for a day or 2 days here, more than my colleagues that are in different denominational traditions. It just might be, for some reason, you have to go across the state to go to a meeting for a board or a committee or an agency or whatever you're on. But I swear that Methodist pastors have like weeks like this more than my other friends do, but that could just be in my own head. But 4 things I'm doing to make sure I'm able to get back in and have a good week, but also not have to scramble like crazy next week when I get back in the office. So the number one thing is this I do. Think about your small ball. Now, I talk about small ball multiple times in the Becoming Productive course. And small ball, really, it can mean lots of things, but it means 2 things primarily. Now, the first thing is this, small ball are those tiny tasks that end up with significant results. Okay. And you can define that in many different ways. It can be many different things. It can be stuff like writing a note to your first time visitors, or writing a note to someone who's giving to your church or serving in your church, that sort of a thing. The minute and a half you spend on that note could have significant results. It's also the stuff that it's tiny and it's little, but if you don't do it and you neglect it for long enough, it can train wreck things. Like not submitting credit card receipts, this type of stuff. But it's these small tasks that we think are very insignificant, but actually compound together to give us significant results. And so when I only have a couple of days in the office and I can't follow my normal rhythm, my normal plan, what I realize I do have a lot of time for, because I can't, these are small ball is tasks that require just like small bursts of concentration in specific ways. You might want to devote an entire half of a day. Like, I'm just going to take care of a bunch of small ball. Like, I've got a couple of some things I've been dangling in front of me. I've been putting them off for a month or so, or it's simple stuff like, hey, my filing system is an absolute train wreck, and if I got this cleaned up and better organized, it would make a big, huge difference later on down the road. Or like my office closet, cleaning in some ways can be a small ball task. Just that sort of stuff. I think pastors' offices are generally like extremely clean, or they're an absolute, like a bomb went off. And so sometimes some sort of cleaning like that could be done, or there's some weird task that you've been putting off because you think that the time is more important than the task. That would kind of fall into this category here. And so you might be able to say, well, I'm just going to kind of, these next couple of days, just kind of focus on that and get that taken care of. It might be administrative stuff. It might be like some small ball for ongoing projects. So that's what I'm doing right now. I've got a couple of larger projects that I'm saying, normally I only devote maybe an hour or two an entire week to this project, but I gave something a solid 5 hours yesterday and got it really, really far down the road. In a normal week, I cannot give it that much attention, but this is not a normal week. And so I gave it that much attention. So that's the first thing, is think about how you can take advantage of small ball tasks inside of a week like this. The second thing you can do is that you can create just a full wash. Like, if half of your week is a wash because you're traveling and you've got a couple of days in the office, create a full wash, meaning just kind of tank the other 2 days with things that take up so much of your time. And that's really where you're creating that wash. What are the things that just take up a significant amount of time and you would normally say no to them because it wouldn't be appropriate during a normal week to do that? So I scheduled an eye doctor's visit this week. I knew that they were going to dilate I was going to be there for an hour, so they're going to dilate my eyes. I wouldn't be able to read or see anything very well the rest of the time or whatever. So I went to the eye doctor yesterday afternoon. Like, my morning was taking care of a bunch of small ball stuff, and then my afternoon I went to the eye doctor, came back, and full honesty, I sat on the couch and I watched Netflix for a couple of hours because I could not do anything. I created a full wash, but I'd been putting off going to the eye doctor for a long time because I knew I would ruin an entire half of a day. I went to breakfast with my dad this morning. I live a half mile away, see Dad constantly, but normally breakfast meetings I don't say yes to anymore because my best working hours are from like 7:30 to 10:30, which are also like breakfast meeting hours. So I went and had breakfast with my dad, took an hour to do that, came back, recorded the podcast episode. But like, I wouldn't normally sit. So think about this. How can you maybe like schedule a bunch of relational stuff on those couple of days? Like, who are the people that you just might want to sit down and just talk with, or those sorts of like focused, non-strategic meetings, that sort of stuff. Maybe if you're in a rural setting, drive around, bring communion to some shut-ins, kind of take care of that kind of stuff. You're saying, you're not getting big project things, big strategic things done this week, but go be relational and take time for like an extended amount of just face-to-face time with people that's there. You also could devote a big part of your day to sermon planning, because, if Sundays always come, if you're going to have to preach that Sunday and you've not gone far ahead, or you've gotten that Sunday under control, but you want to spend some time working ahead for a few more weeks, just, You might not normally be able to say, I'm going to take an entire day for sermon preparation. But if you're going to be in the office for 2 days that week and you're thinking through things, you're committing to not making this like squeezing an entire week's of work into 2 days, you can say, yeah, I'm going to do a day of sermon prep, or I'm going to take a couple hours in the morning to take care of some administrative stuff that needs to happen, but then I'm going to spend 2 hours in the morning and then the whole afternoon in sermon prep. So think about how you can take a week that's like a partial wash and just turn it into a full wash with tasks you would not normally give that kind of time to. The third thing to do is to set your expectations for what you're going to get done that week, but set your expectations low, because remember, you're only in the office for a couple of days. You're going to have some stuff you have to take care of because there's stuff that just has to get done every single week. But rather than squeezing, and I keep bringing the same thing up because this is what we will naturally do unintentionally, is try to squeeze a full week of work into a day or two. Don't do that. Set your expectations low. When you kind of have your pre-weekly meeting, don't come into it with the same like checklist system that you always have. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm only going to take care of these absolute 100% essentials this week, but I'm going to rethink what I'm going to do, and I'm going to set my expectations low, and I'm going to give myself maybe like 2 things a day to accomplish and take care of. Like, set your expectations low. Don't try to burn yourself out before you have to hit the road and do whatever you have to do, or before your just week is not a normal week. That's the third thing. Set your expectations low. The fourth thing is this: plan your way back in. And anytime you're gone, like if you're gone an extended amount of time for a vacation, if you've taken sabbatical, if you've taken medical leave, like anytime you've been out of the office for a few days, you need to plan your way back in. You need to create an on-ramp back into the regular scheduled programming of your life and your ministry. You might want to line out the first day or so of what's going to get back in. Like, hey, what do I need to check on to make sure this is okay? Maybe what are a couple of goals I need to set just to get reacclimated, to get refocused on things. The whole purpose of this is not to play catch up. Because if you plan correctly, you're not going to be having to play catch up. The whole purpose of this is to get back into your rhythm that is a healthy way you work, but is also an effective way you work. And so, short episode today, nothing too terribly complicated, but this is about intentionality. And that's the thing that I'm finding and I'm discovering and I'm talking about in so many of my conversations with folks, like coaching conversations or other stuff I'm doing, is really just thinking through the intentionality. How do we be intentional? We're intentional about doing things in a way that's both healthy for us, but also healthy for our ministry. And finding that intersection point oftentimes is the hardest part of the journey. So this is just one version of that. What does it take to be productive while you're traveling? Being productive when you only have half of a week, not coming back into stuff, exhausted, frustrated, mad, or with disappointment, or all those sorts of things. So, think about the weeks that you have that are like this, and think about what you can do to make that week well, but also to make the next time, like the next week, when you come back into the office well. So that's it. That's easy. We've been having some fun conversations over Productive Pastor Community on Facebook lately about growth and about what does that mean. Right now, I'm really, really interested in what does it take for the normal-sized church to understand their mission field and to understand what an appropriate size is in their mission field. And a side conversation to that has been, when a church is beginning to have not enough people to be able to do ministry, what are the ways that you think of growth in that situation uniquely as opposed to other situations of growth? So this is the kind of stuff that I'm really kind of trotting throughout on Productive Pastor Community. That sounds interesting. Come hang out with us on Facebook. The link to that group is in the show notes. But that's it, friends. We'll be back next week. I'm Chad, and it's a joy to have you as part of things, and I will see you in the next episode.